It's 2:30. Let's go ahead and begin. Good afternoon. It's 2:30. We'll go ahead and begin the workshop. I'll just give a couple quick opening remarks, and then we'll get to the agenda as presented. I made a fund balance request for $475,000 for a pilot project that we'd work with Lexington. The council postponed the vote and requested more information, so that's why we're here. We're going to have 4 speakers. We have Gail Reese with ITN is going to do a short, brief video and then some remarks. Patrice Muhammad with Ride United is going to speak after that. Then we have Lisa Cagle from St. Louis and Danny Whitehouse from Detroit, and they're going to be on Zoom. So Gail, if you would, let's go ahead and begin. Thank you.
Yes.
Are you over 60 and looking for safe and reliable rides in and around Lexington? Every day, Independent Transportation Network of the Bluegrass provides more than 40 rides for seniors powered by volunteer drivers. The best part? It's simple. Simply call, schedule a pickup, and you're on your way.
We are pure transportation, but the good part is it's for anything you want to do. 7 days a week, on holidays. How are we different from Uber and Lyft? It's personal.
I'm grateful for it. It's efficient. It gets you out. It allows you to keep living.
New members often call thinking it's going to be an ordeal, and they find out very quickly it's just a matter of picking up the phone.
Thanks to our incredible volunteers, riders can count on timely pickups and safe, comfortable trips to their destinations. Our volunteers even lend a helping hand from the door to the vehicle and back again, ensuring everyone stays safe every step of the way.
To me, I'm meeting a need that these people can't drive themselves, and I'm allowing them to get where they need to be able to be involved socially with other people. Otherwise, they're stuck at home and isolated, and it's breaking that isolation.
The advantage to being a volunteer is the flexibility, but also it's very definite. You pick up someone here, you take them there, and you check it off your list.
I've been driving for, I guess, 5 years now. You know, I know most of the people that I'm driving. It's good to see people and catch up with them. I feel like I get my share out of them for sure.
To learn more about how you can volunteer with ITN Bluegrass, visit drivealittlechangealot.com or book your first ride by calling 859-785-2180. At ITN, we believe everyone deserves to get out and live life, one ride at a time.
Thank you. That's us. We're ITN Bluegrass. We've been operating in Fayette County and Northern Jessamine County since 2008. That was our first ride. And we're part of a national organization. We're a nonprofit. Currently we have 40 volunteer drivers driving private cars, and then we have 5 staff drivers driving 3 ITN-owned cars. The rides are prepaid in a personal account, so there's no payment at the time and no tipping. And like Wheels, we require a 48-hour advance to book, and this is our structure. That being said, we are willing to discuss expanded ways we can provide transportation in Fayette County within our framework. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to have all the speakers do their presentations, and then at the end we can ask questions. So since we have people on Zoom that are giving their time up, I'm trying to have them on a certain time frame. So next, Patrice Muhammad with Ride United.
Good afternoon, and thank you all so much for having us. I have a slide deck to talk a little bit about United Way of the Bluegrass, as well as our Ride United program. Thank you all so much for having this conversation. We know based on our research and our statistics that transportation is a huge barrier for so many people in Fayette County, and we want to be part of that solution. So let's talk about United Way of the Bluegrass. We've been in this community since 1921, and we can advance the slide. I don't know who I'm talking. Here we go. Thank you. Oh, right here. Thank you. There we go. See, self-service. Appreciate that, actually. So here we go. So United Way of the Bluegrass, we've been around since 1921, 105 years that we've been in this community. We are headquartered here in Fayette County. Many people know the United Way is that community chest where we raise money, pass it out to smaller nonprofits. We're very proud of that work that we still do. Most of our grant allocations are given out here in Fayette County. We do have our volunteer assistance tax program. Again, we talk about United Way, the way we started as the community chest. About 20 years ago, we started doing direct programming such as VITA, our 211, which we're going to talk about more today, as well as our Waypoint centers. So let's talk about 211. Anybody ever hear of 211? So glad that you have. Very often we're in a room and people are like, never heard of 211, but 211 has been around for about 20 years. You can call for any health and human service referral needs you have. We will connect people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to any social service program they may need. So let's talk about Ride United. Again, this has been a barrier to many people in the community, transportation, so we applied for funding, and our current program funds are for Lyft rides that primarily get people to non-emergency medical appointments, basically essential services like jobs, job interviews. We do want you all to know that we can create programs specific to the LFUCG Microtransit program guidelines. We can originate rides in priority zones. We can also limit rides to specific destinations or times of day that help provide rides after Lexington ends their service. So it's a pretty extensive program. There's 3 different programs available. I'm not going to go through each of those, but we do have the ability, if people are very comfortable with smartphones, they can schedule their own rides. We can give them an amount of money, say $300. They can spend until it's gone. We can give out codes for a specific number of rides with a dollar limit. But primarily, we've been operating the Lyft Concierge program, which I'll talk about more. So what is concierge? It's best for people who don't have smartphones. It's also, people don't have to download an app. People who don't want to associate a payment, they won't have to do that with our concierge program. And a lot of people are afraid of rideshare, or, no, I wouldn't say afraid, but not sure how to use it. This way, our staff actually schedules the rides. They can be scheduled 24 hours a day, as long as we can get a driver, and we've never had a problem with that. But our rides are available whether our staff is in office or not. We can make those appointments. What I'm offering is a sample program design, because again, we can make this any way that fits for LFUCG. The rides are 100% free for the clients. No payments are required. We can schedule rides the same day. We can schedule trips for up to 2 weeks in advance. And our suggested program would be to get people to essential services. A sample of a program request would be a 2-year investment. We are suggesting a pilot year where we would really work on the program design to make sure that it fits the needs of LFUCG. It would give rides for about 6 months. Then in year 2, it would be full implementation at $250,000. Again, no cost to the rider. With that investment, we would estimate 12,500 rides. That's about all I have for you guys, and I'll be available for questions.
Thank you. And I've had requests for getting that information emailed to us, if you would, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was quick. All right, we're ahead of schedule. That's always a good thing. Are we ready for the Zoom? Okay, let's go ahead and bring in Lisa Cagle from St. Louis.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. As I was introduced, yes, I'm Lisa Cagle from Metro Transit in St. Louis. I am going to share a presentation here. Just give me 1 second so I can get it up.
And we did have a test run on Monday, so that was working on Monday. So let's hope it continues today. There we go.
Okay, can you see it? Sorry about that. It's being a little bit slow there. Okay, so yes, my name is Lisa Cagle. I'm from St. Louis Metro Transit. I'm Assistant General Manager of Planning and Innovation. And I want to tell you a little bit about our microtransit program that started as a pilot program in 2020. So first, let me tell you sort of where I'm coming from here at Metro. So Metro is actually run by Bi-State Development, which is an interstate compact established between Missouri and Illinois in 1949. It wasn't established to run transit, but then it took over transit in the late 1950s, early 1960s. So Metro Transit is one of its enterprises. So I wanted to give you a sense of sort of like, it's not the city who's running this, it's a bi-state compact running the transit agency here. So overall of our system, here's a picture here that shows sort of the line here in the middle is the river. So on the right side is Illinois, and on the left side is Missouri. We do have about 20.8 million boardings across the system as of last fiscal year, and about almost 200,000 of those were microtransit at the time last year. So our budget is around $330 million for the whole system, and we do operate under a labor agreement for fixed routes, so that's Metrobus and Metrolink and mechanics, under a labor agreement with Amalgamated Transit Union Local 788. This picture is showing a little bit about our microtransit service profile. So you can see these sort of large gray areas on the outskirts of the Missouri side of the service region. So we have a big highway that kind of runs, or a big interstate that runs around this metro area, I-270, and so most of our microtransit is outside of that Interstate 270 corridor. We have 3 zones. There's the north zone, the south zone, and the west zone, and they're all relatively large. But we do have, the service is such that anybody can go anywhere within the zone, within an individual zone. If they want to go between zones, they need to use a bus or Metrolink to get there. But we do have a 7-mile cap. So instead of separating out each of these zones into smaller zones, we basically put a cap on the distance that any individual can take within those zones, and that's at 7 miles. The 2 bottom zones, the west zone and the south zone, have the same service hours, 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., and they're more sort of traditional commuters using those areas. They are connecting to our transit centers and to bus stops and key locations. And then the north zone, where we have sort of the biggest demand and the most rides, it's about half of all of our microtransit service goes in the north zone. Those hours are from 5 a.m. until 1 a.m. because there are some sort of traditional commuters, but there are also like a lot of shift workers who are taking this at the end of our service hours. Now, when we first got this contract together in 2020, we didn't serve this big of an area. We were mostly serving sort of North County and then a few smaller areas. And the idea was, prior to the pandemic, we had done a big comprehensive operation analysis and a Metro bus redesign, so that we were redesigning the bus network. And we wanted to use microtransit more as like a true first mile, last mile service in areas that were hard to cover by a bus, but we knew there was transit demand, or in areas where we knew that we needed longer service hours than what we could give given our sort of span of service for the fixed route system. So we were looking specifically at overnight coverage and the northern area there. of course, COVID happened, and we pivoted. And the nice thing about Microtransit, particularly this model, which we are, partnered with VIA. VIA is our service provider since 2020, and it is a turnkey service solution. So that means while we have weekly meetings and we design the system together and we provide oversight, VIA has the vehicles, the operators, and the software to run the system. We have access to the back end, so we can see what's going on. We can sort of take into account what's happening in terms of origins and destinations and how many people are using what when, to sort of reflect our service planning for our fixed route as well. The fare is capped at, or the fare is at $2 a trip currently. We don't accept cash on the vehicles, and so we do sell some paper tickets for for the Microtransit at some transit centers where they're needed, but it hasn't been a big barrier to folks using the system overall. A lot of people pay with a prepaid card. And just sort of overall, just so you can kind of see what the costs look like, our contracted rate currently per operating hour for VIA, this is them doing all of the work, is $59.90 per operating hour. And with the ridership that we have and the efficiencies that we found with like good management from both our team and the VIA team, that leads to about a cost per trip of about $21 per trip, which is very competitive compared to other modes in our service profile. We also recently added paratransit overflow trips. So we have a paratransit provider in-house, but there's always more demand than we can, really successfully provide. And so that was a separate operating hour. That's a $63.90 per operating hour contract. And we send about 2,000 rides per month to VIA from our paratransit services. And so, I just wanted to give you sort of an overview of our system. I wanted to tell you some of the big benefits of working with this model. I think that the turnkey service, where you're partnering with a vendor who is not only offering the software, but is offering some sort of operational skin in the game, is they have a lot of incentive to try to make sure that they're operating as efficiently as possible as well. We've made lots of changes over the years, sometimes with lots of lead up and planning, where we added a zone or we, contracted a zone or put in that 7-mile cap. But sometimes with just a few weeks notice, we changed things as well. Because during COVID, the service became a really important safety net for us for fixed route replacement. When we couldn't get all of our bus service out because of operator constraints or resource constraints, VIA allowed us to continue serving neighborhoods where we couldn't put a bus out. Now, that is not the primary purpose that we want Microtransit contract to serve, but it was really important, and it illustrates one of the big pros of the service model, again, that through a pilot program you can kind of tweak things pretty easily and much faster than our fixed route network can, with the union shop and having to do service picks and those kinds of things on a quarterly basis. I will also say that we didn't start out at the price of $21 per trip. We got there over several years of sort of, again, tweaking the service, right-sizing it, figuring out where we wanted to make adjustments and what made sense based upon our need. But I can't say enough good things about doing the pilot program and sort of seeing what works for y'all and doing it for more than 6 months at a time. Do like a year or continue it for longer than that so you can see what is working. I think a kind of con or something that might be like a difficult about Microtransit is that while it may take a little bit of time in order to get ridership built up because people are learning about the system and figuring it out. They might need some tutorials, especially if they're older or they don't have a smartphone. It becomes very popular very quickly. So the one drawback about Microtransit and door-to-door or curb-to-curb service is that it's very popular and your demand can oftentimes exceed what you have committed to putting on the ground, and so then you have to make some other decisions. So that's what I wanted to say about our program, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards.
Thank you, Ms. Cagle. And at this point, we're ahead of schedule, so that's good. We'll go to Danny Whitehouse, who is with Detroit.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you mentioned, so I am Daniel Whitehouse, the Vice President of Paratransit and Microtransit at SMART. I get the privilege of not only dealing with our disabled community, but also the Microtransit as we branded SMART Flex for the authority. I wanted to kind of cover SMART service area and what we've done and where we're going. So our service area is about 1,700 square miles. We're operating over 3 counties in Metro Detroit, Oakland County, Macomb County, and Wayne. We currently service about 77 cities, and the population within our service area is about 2.8 million people. So SMART launched Microtransit back in 2021. This came from findings from a comprehensive operational analysis that we had done to learn about services in our area. And the recommendation was that SMART begin a pilot program of microtransit. So we, from there, identified initially 3 zones. One of the first zones that we really looked at was Hall Road, which you'll see kind of on the top of this map. And for anybody who's been to Metro Detroit, Hall Road is about a 50, 55 mile an hour, 8 to 10 lane road with a couple malls, a lot of shopping, a lot of restaurants, but really not safe for a fixed route. It's not safe to traverse from the south to the north or east to the west, and the businesses then sit off of the road. So microtransit was ideal for situations like that in Metro Detroit, where we could have vehicles that connected to our fixed route hubs and then provided service across those major thoroughways to the businesses, not only for shoppers, but also employees. And so as we saw success that we'll talk about with this program, we really wanted to expand microtransit and do more things to learn. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So some facts about this: we have, again, 5 zones. We centralize them in different cities or have different distinct names. So Dearborn we have as a zone, and that encompasses really the city of Dearborn, which has a downtown. Our Troy Clawson zone, again, has a major downtown. Auburn Hills and Pontiac has, connections with malls, universities, a lot of hospitals. Hall Road, which we just talked about, and then Farmington and Farmington Hills, where we see more senior rides, but also connections to fixed route. Like Lisa had mentioned, we have the same fare structure. We mimic it off of our fixed route network with the idea that people utilizing fixed route and then getting transfers don't have to pay additionally. But what we did do differently is we do have distance-based caps. So we have one structure for full fare and one for reduced fare that either cap at $8 or $4, depending on the distance. We offer all of our zones currently 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. except for one zone, and that's 7 days a week. And all of that was recently reviewed. We're going to talk about that here in a second. So where have we seen success? Well, when we launched this program in March of 2021, the first months we saw 300 rides and didn't really know where to go. Within the first year, we hit about 50,000 rides. But in 22, 23, and 24, we jumped from 50,000 rides to 250,000, then 350,000, 350,000, and actually hit 1 million rides in December of 2024. So just about 3 years into the program, and we're hitting 1 million rides. This year, we've grown even more. So we're nearly 400,000 rides as we're projecting from our monthly total through the end of this year. So a few of those little stats. Right now, we're seeing about 35,000 rides per month, or an average daily ridership about 1,400 rides, and that's across the 3 zones. As Lisa had also talked about, our cost of ride, we've seen fluctuations with ridership. So in 2024, we were seeing rides, cost per ride of about $20 an hour or above. And this year, in 2025, we're seeing that drop. We're seeing our rides per hour hit 3 rides per hour or get close to 3 rides per hour in a lot of our zones. So as I mentioned earlier, we saw success in this from our initial pilot and over those 3 years that we did the initial pilot. And about 2 years ago, we decided we need to see what the next level for microtransit is in Metro Detroit. And so we enlisted help of a consultant and developed what we called the Smarter Network. It started as the Smarter Mobility Program, and from the recommendations, we went into the Smarter Network. And I want to go through a little bit about this. So currently, as we mentioned, there's 5 zones. You'll see that on the left-hand or right-hand side, depending on how you're facing. My left-hand side, where the current zones are in purple, and the black lines are our fixed route network. We wanted to do this project with also acknowledging that we didn't have unlimited funds and that we needed to fit within our projected funding element for the next couple of years. And so that was a lot of work for our consultant. What they identified really quickly was that SMART had fixed routes that were either underutilized or had duplicate services. And so that we found very quickly that there were ways that we could adjust our fixed route system and then increase microtransit and add new fixed routes, all within that same budget expectancy. And so what you see on the right is the proposed design network. We currently have 45 fixed route lines. We're going to remain at 45. We have 5 microtransit zones. We're going to go to 11 microtransit zones. We have a lot of routes that only operate Monday through Friday, and a lot of those Monday through Friday routes are going to go online Saturdays and Sundays. And again, we were able to do this and not have to go above what our financial means will be, projected financial means over the next few years. So a little bit of a glimpse of what we did from the success and why we wanted to build from it. So we're adding new routes. We've identified that we can hit almost 80,000 new jobs, 10,000 new businesses. We're going to realign all of our fixed route scheduling, so more clock in time that we can talk about. But here's really the glimpse of what we did just by reevaluating our entire system and having the push to be better and do more for riders. Businesses go up, population that's impacted by our new network is almost 700,000 more people, or more than 700,000 more people have access to transit. Our hours went up, our miles went up, but we were able to do that again by right-sizing our fixed route and keep it at the projected funding level. This is another glimpse of how many businesses, once this microtransit expansion is done, we're hitting nearly 1 million businesses, almost, just over 35,000 jobs, and a population of just under 500,000 people. So this is a glimpse. I know the fixed routes are out, but we have the new zones here. So this is showing all 11 zones. You'll see 3, and this is Macomb County on the right-hand side, 3 zones that all touch each other. Riders will be able to move within the zone, move between zones at transfer points, and then obviously connect to and from our fixed route network. And so it's really opening up areas in a cost-effective manner that we didn't have to deploy more fixed route services. You'll see that we found a number of areas where one zone now becomes 2 zones side by side. Again, identifying some downtowns of cities, educational opportunities, or just ways to grow this network, and that the need wasn't fixed route. The need was a flexible service, Smart Flexes, right? People riding the day of who just can ride in an Uber Lyft on-demand style. The other thing that we are working on through this, and again with the same funding, is a late night pilot. And what we will be doing here is actually removing some of our fixed routes networks, or routes to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, instead of midnight or 1, and utilizing that money to expand a microtransit network in its place, right? So we've identified a number of routes where there's only 1 or 2 riders late at night and you're operating a 40-foot, 60-foot bus. But Microtransit could do that work at a different hourly rate. And so we will be piloting it over the next couple of years, this late night pilot, either with our current vendor or as an Uber voucher mechanism, or in tandem, to really look at how can we provide cost-effective late night service that can impact more people without empty buses being ran. As I mentioned earlier, we also through this found that we have the ability to right side our clock hand timing. So buses will arrive at stops in a regular fluidity. So 105, 135, 205, 235, and not just, this 105 and then 117 or 227, where people really get confused on when is the bus showing up here. The last points I really want to make are this growth that we were able to do on the fixed route that does tie into Microtransit. We were able to improve headways. This obviously results in more vehicles being out there, but we were able to do that again with right-siding the budget. And this is one of the biggest slides that I would like to just present to everybody is, right now, as I mentioned, we have 21 routes that only operate 7 days a week. We're going up to 38. And that impact not only is going to see the Microtransit side, but also the paratransit side. It opens up the region to that many more people with disabilities, with more frequency, more equity. And we're very excited for that. We have one county where there's very little service on Sundays, and with this change, we will be adding almost all of the service back in on Sundays and even Saturdays for those riders. So, again, we're going to see a lot of growth here, Microtransit, and we're looking even more to the future of we're going from 5 to 11 zones. But as great planners do in transit, we also have a projected after 11, what are potential next zones that could go online to really expand the area. And again, we're doing these things still in a pilot phase. As we look at who delivers service in this 11 zone change that I'll go back to for everybody, you'll see different codings, color codings, and the different color codings in some cases represent who's providing the service. We're looking at if we could directly in-house provide a service in a zone, what would that cost be? What is that efficiency versus a turnkey solution with a third-party vendor? Or, we have local transit agencies that work with us. If they were to provide that service, what is the cost efficiency? What is the service delivery efficiency by having kind of a mix of service delivery between, again, third-party vendors, us directly in-house, as well as some of those community levels. So as Lisa mentioned, same here. I am happy to entertain any questions that you may have. I would also welcome if anybody wants to come up to Metro Detroit and ride with our Microtransit and get a glimpse of the application and even, talk to drivers and everybody. I would welcome you and would love to ride with any of you interested in learning more.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehouse. And
Thank you.
Ms. Cagle, could you both email myself? I'll give you the email, and then I'll pass it on to the other council members for your presentations, if you don't mind, please. And we can do that at the end.
Absolutely.
At this point, I'll open it up for questions for council members. Councilmember Beasley.
Thank you, Chair. So for ITN of the Bluegrass, you said how many drivers you have, but I missed it. I didn't get to write it down. Can you tell me how many drivers you have?
We use volunteers. Currently, we have 40, and they work on their flexible hours whenever they want to work, that like a 3-hour shift at a time.
And then you had some that were drove cars that you all own, right?
Yes, and they're more full-time, yes.
And how many were those?
3 cars and 5 drivers. And I forgot to say, we do 40 to 50 rides a day, Monday through Friday. and then fewer on the weekends.
Did you mention about being, and presently you have to be, it's a membership driven, isn't it?
Yes, it is membership, because we know there's an application and there's an annual membership fee. Individuals, $75, a couple of $100. But once you're once you fill out the application, then we know all the things about you we need to know to serve you. Like what kind of, if you have a cane, you have a walker, or any kind of emotional or dementia going on. We know things about that, and we know your emergency contacts. That's all in the application process. So the drivers are matched well with the riders. They know who they're picking up.
Thank you.
Okay, and then for Ride United,
Yes, ma'am.
is your service door to door or curb to curb? Do you know what that means?
I don't.
Okay, so does your, the folks who drive the lifts or whatever, do they go to the door and help folks to the car, or they meet them at the curb and it's curb to curb?
Great question. Our contract with Lyft requires that anyone who needs assistance, they can bring assistance with them, but the drivers will not provide the assistance, but more than one person can travel in the vehicle.
Okay. And is there a cap on how many miles I can go if I use Ride United?
It depends on the program, the way the program is developed. Ours currently caps at about $23 per ride, but we have a negotiated rate through United Way Worldwide, so we're able to get people primarily throughout the city on that $23 ride. We also, you know, when people call 211, they get access to an intake, so someone's going to talk to them to see what other needs they have, but also they'll ask them how flexible they are, because if they're traveling during a surge time where the prices are higher, maybe they can arrive a little later or travel differently. So we try to make sure that we make that work. But again, it depends on the program guidelines that are set up. So you all could set a program rate of $30, or you could set it at $23.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Then I have some questions for Lextran. Is that okay? Are they?
Yeah, Fred, Fred Combs here is Lextran's here, so.
I know, I see. Shh. I never ask questions. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Do you know how much it'll cost? So say that we give you this money and we pilot this program, then we decide to do it. Do you know how much it's going to cost to actually have the microtransit program with Lextran?
So we will find that out through the RFP process.
Okay.
But we feel like that the amount of funds available to us is sufficient to get what was in the study. If we do the RFP and it comes back much more expensive than what we thought, there are tools that we have that we can use to lower that cost and hopefully still provide a level of service that's acceptable, but we'll use those levers to manage our cost as best as we can.
And then is Lextran prepared, or do you think you'll be able to sustain this after the pilot?
We'll have to see how it goes. Year number 2, we might still need some help. But long term, we just need this information, this data on how successful the program is. And many of the costs per trip numbers that we've seen in these presentations, that comes down to efficiency. So the gentleman from Detroit said they were doing 3 trips per hour. If we can get to that, the cost per trip that we have in our study will go down.
All right, I have one last question in my 26 seconds. How is this going to affect your union contract that you have with your bus drivers now? Because is there a van language in that contract with your bus drivers?
There is van language in the contract. As we would start, it would be a turnkey service. Should we bring that in-house, then we would go to the table with the union and figure out what that van contract clause would look like.
So the turnkey service, these will not be, like, you'll be paying the service, you will not be paying individuals, is that correct?
Yes, this would not be this would be contracted out much like the services that were presented today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilmember Savigny.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is for ITN.
ITN.
Thank you. My dad used the service, and it was very helpful, so I truly appreciated it. Since you have a lot of volunteers, you probably have a calculate. What's your calculated per ride kind of
We charge about half of what it costs us. So our minimum ride charge is $12, and that's a $5 pickup and $2.10 a ride, and most people are going a short distance, but it's actually costing us high 20s, $30, and we collect the rest through fundraising and grants.
Okay. Yeah, that's, because what I'm trying to get, like, I'm going to jump now to the people on the screen. Okay. So St. Louis and Detroit, it seems like the efficiency piece is like you can get to about $20 a ride. Is that correct?
Yes, I'd say that that's probably about as efficient as you're going to get in most places. If you're getting more rides per hour, like more rides per van, and than that, you're probably going to want to go to like a fixed route service because of the efficiencies.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Councilmember, I would like to, I was raising my hand earlier, but SMART, since we've gone through the RFP process multiple times here, we would be happy to assist in not only providing our scope of work, but also discussing what our procurement lessons learned were from this process. Obviously, as a turnkey solution, we've interviewed vendors and reviewed the proposal, so happy to provide any knowledge and history insight to if that's welcomed.
Great. Thank you so much. And it also seems like is the way you generally contract it. It's you're contracting this $59-$60 an hour, and you're hoping to get 3 rides in an hour. Is that kind of how it typically works? Okay. All right.
Yes, generally that would be very efficient.
Right.
Yeah, it's a negotiated rate. Obviously, as you with many vendors, as you're giving them more and more business, the hourly rate may go down. We have been working with our current vendor on some of the costs and how we can reduce them. But yeah, roughly about $50 to $60 an hour is what we've been seeing as the trend.
All right, thank you. I have a question for United Way. This seems like also a cool program. I didn't really know about it until just a few weeks ago, so I think it's neat. When you basically say the client's not paying, you're either raising money to do this service, and it sounds like I think you said it's about $23 a ride.
Yes.
So are you in that same $60 but you're really only doing Lyft, like you must have some sort of negotiated rate with Lyft. Is that what it is?
That is exactly what it is. So our administrative cost is $7 per ride. So it averages to anyone who we solicit for funding would be $30 per ride. And we're able to usually get more rides than the 23 because all the rides aren't $23, so it averages. Our first grant was for 1,000 rides, and we were able to do about $1,250 out of that because we're going to keep giving rides until the funds are exhausted.
Yeah.
So we've had national funders that were interested in Fayette County. It was a healthcare system, and they provided our first grant, and a local motor manufacturing company has invested in rides to help people as far as workforce development, and their rides are specifically for people to get to jobs, job interviews. So we've had great success with people being able to use our Ride United service and save their money while they're getting their car repaired or to purchase a ride. So all of our programs, and we are also working with other counties outside of Fayette County to provide rides.
But you're really doing them all through Lyft, but you're gathering funds to support some programmatic need.
We're gathering funds to provide Ride United rides.
Yeah.
So that's what any program design that we have is, to utilize those funds for this program. So they're not utilized for the rest of United Way's operating.
And then I have a second left, but I'm just going to ask you: do you like when you ran out of money, when people call you and say, "Oh, we're out"? Like, have you run out of money?
We have run out of money based on, because they go very fast, because people are very excited about the program. And so again, when people call 211, we're trying to find a solution to any problem. So depending on their scenario, we may know where there's a bus pass available or things like that. Our goal is to get people to a solution to whatever they call 211 for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to thank all of our presenters and guests for being here and for putting up with all of our many, many questions. I have several, and if I don't get through them, I'll chime back in. The first one is for Ms. Muhammad, and I know you and I have spoken already, but I have more questions I wanted to ask. First of all, do you know if any other United Ways have scaled up to a larger version of this particular program to serve thousands of people?
Absolutely, and we've served thousands, but we have 3 prime examples that, if requested, we could, come up with a presentation similar to what you had today that we've been in touch with, that they partnered with their local government as well. So we do have 3 examples of much larger scale than what we've done.
Okay, and right now, the program is limited in a scope of where someone could go, a job interview, a medical appointment. Under the money that you get, are you able to scale that up to be anywhere that someone needed to go?
Absolutely. And I know your time is limited, so I don't want to take it all up, but we've also considered that, and so we would definitely speak to anyone who wants to fund a program to let them know that we are collecting statistics. That is usually why people limit it to that, because some people don't want their program funds to say that they dropped someone off at a gentleman's club or they drop someone off at a liquor store, right? That's going to be reported. So that's why many program funders put guidelines on where they would like people dropped off. So,
okay,
but we can absolutely drop people anywhere.
Okay, and you were speaking with Councilmember Beasley earlier about the door-to-door, curb-to-curb. So if someone is in a wheelchair and they call in, how would they be served?
That's a great question. It depends on the person's ability. So there's no program that's going to fit every possible ability or disability. So it would depend on whether that person, the requirement is that the person can ambulate to the vehicle and get in and out of the vehicle themselves or bring the assistance that they need.
So if they couldn't, if they couldn't get to the road by themselves, then this service would not be able, because there wouldn't be someone able to push their wheelchair or aid them into getting into the car. Is that right?
Exactly. This may not be the solution for someone who is unable to get completely to the vehicle on their own.
Okay, that's helpful to know. And then, so under an expanded program, would this be on demand? One of the things in the study showed that there needed to be, not longer than like a 20-minute wait time to have a ride. So would this be something that still they would have to call ahead of time to schedule, or would it be on demand?
We could do on demand during certain hours. The proposal that we prepared would be during our hours where our staff actually take calls from 7:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern. After that, we use call service. We send our calls somewhere else, so we don't do the scheduling during that time, but we can schedule rides after 6 o'clock if people need rides then. But to your point of how fast, we can do on-demand rides between 7:30 and 6.
Okay, and I know a few constituents expressed that sometimes it's hard to get through on 211, and sometimes they can't reach someone quickly. How would you respond to that concern?
There's many ways we can address that because we do have surges. So depending, like the November 1st when the SNAP benefits went away, we had 150 calls on hold at any given moment. This is Whitney, our 211 director. So sometimes it is harder to get through to 211, absolutely. But depending on the funding, we can create a position where there's more of a direct line and we can also change our I'm trying not to use technical terms, but you can press a button that says for Ride United, it'll get you there. So there's ways we can improve that.
Thank you. And real quick, when you said $375K for the first year, how many rides was that for again?
12. No, that was for 2 years, and it would be Yeah. I said, oh, I'm not going to need this. Hold on.
12,500.
Thank you. If somebody had, yes, so year one would be the pilot at 125,000, year two would be 250,000. Together, that would be 12.5 in 2 years. But, so what would that, I don't have that in front of me, like, divide that by 30. That's what it is. It's $30 per call.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn back in if I need to.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for the presentation. I'm going to start with our out-of-town guests first. Ms. Cagle in St. Louis. And I apologize if I missed some of this from your slide presentations. We don't have physical copies of the slide decks in front of us. You had mentioned that your total transit budget was $330 million, but I don't know if I caught what the microtransit budget is on its own.
Great question. Yeah, so that is, as of fiscal year 2025, it is around $6.5 million, again, over those very big areas, right? So we're covering about 20% of our service area in the county with microtransit. I did want to note that with that contract, those drivers are FTA certified. They are drug and alcohol compliant and trained in terms of any kind of accessibility needs that people have. And the fleet is about 30% waves, which is wheelchair accessible vehicles. So people with wheelchairs can use that service. We have a lift program as well, but they are not drug and alcohol compliant, and there are no waves in that service.
Okay, thank you for that. And then the microtransit covers 3 zones. Is that your entire ridership area for the overall transit system, or is it just 3 zones that are just kind of covering the where you have more of a gap in service?
Yes, it is 3 zones covering more of a gap in service. I mentioned in the presentation, but I'll say it again. We have a very sprawling region, as many regions are. We have an interstate that sort of divides the inner suburbs from the outer suburbs in our area. It's called Interstate 270. And so most of our microtransit service is outside of that loop. So it's those less dense areas where a bus may not be like the best way of serving those areas, but public transit still might be needed.
Okay, thank you. And then how long did you all run your pilot?
So that's a great question. So actually it wound up being a several-year pilot because we kept on, technically in terms of what it was. The pilot itself was probably, we could say, about 2 years during like the height of COVID. But we continue sort of running it as a pilot. We just had extension years that we put onto it since we were the contracting body. We didn't have to transfer it to a new contracting body. And I say it has continued to run as a pilot in the sense that we make changes all the time. That's sort of the nice thing about contracting with a turnkey service provider like VIA, is that we say, we need to ramp up or ramp down, or hey, we actually want to serve this area. And we get really good data from that that allows us to sort of integrate it into our fixed route services to say, actually, maybe a bus is better here and it's time to bring a bus back, or vice versa.
When you all scaled up from the pilot to full implementation, did you experience any economies of scale that could potentially like drop your per ride cost or just kind of your overall per user cost?
Absolutely, yeah. During our pilot phase, it was closer to like $30 or $40 per ride that we were seeing. Again, we didn't sort of like push a huge marketing push for this. It was just sort of people who needed this in the time that we weren't able to provide other services. So then when we ramped up to sort of the full levels, we were getting closer to that $20 per ride.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Whitehouse in Detroit, did you all, I assume, also piloted this program? Can you talk a little bit about how long the pilot was, how big of an area, and how much money it cost you?
Yeah, so we still are in pilot mode.
Okay.
When we launched the initial pilot, like I mentioned, we started with 3 zones and almost immediately identified 2 other zones. One was in a dial ride format that we changed over. The second lesson or pilot phase was as ridership grew, we identified increasing needs for wheelchair accessible vehicles. And so we, as phase 2 of this, had to integrate new and more wheelchair accessible vehicles to ensure that response time was equal between wheelchair users and non-wheelchair users. So that was the second big phase of this pilot. We had initially started with 8 vehicles and then identified that the actual need across 5 zones was 28. And so then we were monitoring that. And now we're going into our third phase as when we add more zones, and we're now looking at who should deliver the service, from the 3 modes, right? The test mode where a third-party vendor is doing it, or Smart directly operating it but using a technology for the scheduling, or one of our providers, local providers, them providing it using the technology. So we're looking now in this third phase of those different service delivery modes to see the most cost-effective, operationally effective mode, and that will then culminate into kind of the final, who's going to deliver it, how is this formally and finally going to be structured for really the long-term success of the program.
All right, thank you. I'm out of time. I'll sign back in.
Thank you. Councilmember Sheehan?
Thank you. So for the Ms. Cagle and Mr. Whitehouse, I have the same question for you both. So I would like to know how you fund your program. So is it through grant funding? Is it through a local tax or fee? Because it seems like the cost of the programs are more than the fee, the rider fee that you collect. And Mr. Whitehouse, could you remind us, if you said this before, what is the cost of your microtransit program specifically?
Yeah, so if you're asking, I'm sorry, in terms of the cost of the program, are you asking the contract cost?
Whatever you're paying for your microtransit service.
So currently we are paying $50.81, and then our new first of the year the contract rate will go to 52.
I guess I mean your total. What is your total annual cost then?
Oh, so our not to exceed for the 10 zones will be. Right now we're paying about $685,000 a month. That is the invoice from them. The contract over 3 years is not to exceed $35 million. We have noticed and are taking a route or two, fixed route or two offline, because we feel that microtransit will be a more productive and positive use of our funding. In terms of how we secure funding, we operate on a local millage. So we collect 0.95 mils from participating communities, and that helps to fund most of our operational funding. We are using operational funds for microtransit.
Okay, so you, just to clarify, you said $685,000 a month?
Yes.
Okay. And then, Ms. Cagle, how's your microtransit program funded?
Sure, yeah. So we are also the transit agency, so we are funded through the operating funds for the transit agency as well, which in our case is local sales tax. We get virtually nothing from the state, so it's all local sales taxes primarily. We have used grant funding in the past to fund part of the microtransit, especially the pilot that we were doing. We used 5310 funds, particularly to make sure that our older adults and folks with disabilities knew how to use the program, knew about the program, and then also part of our service fee, which I thought was important, I forgot to say this earlier, involves a contractor-run call center. So VIA runs a call center that takes calls in, so it doesn't come through our customer service lines. So anybody who doesn't use the app on their phone like they would for Uber or Lyft, but it's for VIA, if they don't want to use it or they can't use that, they can call in and book a ride at the call center. So that is part of our fee as well, goes toward that.
And then
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
We do the same thing as Lisa mentioned, but we also, with our rate, have field managers, and I don't know if Lisa does, but we also supplies field managers, lot managers, so that our smart staff, road supervisors, don't have to then do double work with this additional service. So we're allowing that, again, the full operation for VIA to be done in-house.
And then when you were getting started with your pilot, did you have any other additional sources that were outside of your operating funds to help get this started?
Not not for this particular pilot. We did a different pilot, it was just like a downtown central pilot with the city, and that did use some ARPA funding to get that started. We have not continued that program. We might revisit it in the future, but we didn't see the downtown, foot traffic in order to sort of continue supporting that program.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We had funding for the first 3 zones. One of the other zones was through COVID relief funding. It started off as a vaccine zone where people within the zone could come and utilize Microtransit to get vaccines. We were able to use that funding to continue it, and then we absorbed it into our operating budget after those funds ran out.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Chair, and I just have a comment for ITN. I just want to say thank you for the services that you provide. I was made aware of your organization a while back, and I know you all have built a model that has been successful and has a niche, so just thank you for that.
You're welcome. Actually, there's a ITN in St. Louis.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then, Ms. Muhammad, I just got a quick question. So I know the parameters of the funding that you had previously received, y'all just kind of set that up based off of where you got the funding, but it seems like regardless of who you get funding for, it doesn't seem like that model is designed to be like an individual's everyday transportation. Because it seems like, and I'm just saying this out loud, it just seems like the cost would be expensive if somebody wanted to use your service to go to work or go to routine doctor's appointments. It seems like the cost per ride would just exceed the feasibility of doing that.
So that's a great question. That was something I was taking some notes. I see the value in the investment in Lextran because that's an investment in system improvement. What we're offering is a system alternative, and our cost of operation per ride is still $30 to get someone anywhere. The operating cost of many of these systems, and as well as in the Lextran report, is like $50 or $60. So again, there is an investment that we believe should be made in system improvement. But again, this is an alternative that we could do the same number of rides. We could do them at $30 instead of $50, right? So we can actually handle that same capacity. It would be a matter of rides and drivers available. Excuse me. We already reached out to Lyft through our partnership with United Way Worldwide. We talked about what it would look like. They would run advertisement to increase the drivers in the area. There are ways that Lyft supports local transportation that we would definitely be able to look into.
Okay. Well, that helps and puts it into some context. And then, Director Combs, I think I got a couple of questions for you, and part of it is based off of the presentation that we had a few weeks ago. The thought about when the pilots ran and it's successful, if it's successful, what does phasing in look like? Because from the presentation that we got, that the pilot's successful, then it would show that our community needs and wants the service and would just go full board. But that, from my understanding, that's not how you would go in year 2 or year 1. So can you speak to the phasing piece?
Excuse me. I would like to go a much more stepwise direction. So from 1 zone to 2 zones. Sorry. And then phase in that way. I don't think going the entire implementation of the study all at once is the right move. I think we need to take it off piece by piece and bite by bite. And one really interesting thing about all these programs is they work really well together. I mean, this isn't an either or. Each of these programs solves a need in the community. And I do think there's an opportunity that we can augment each other as we move forward and as we demonstrate that these things are successful.
So you think there's a way to write that RFP to allow for partnerships for some of these other organizations to partner with, say, some outside agency that may come in to provide service?
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be part of the RFP. We could structure, a great example would be times of service. It could be after the microtransit service ends, then these other services pick up and fill those gaps. It could be demand surges. So when demand spikes at certain times of day, the other services come in and help out there as well. I mean, I think there's different things that we could do for all these programs to work together. I mean, there's no reason why that can't happen.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. So my last question will kind of go towards funding. Sure. And I was made aware that in the RFP, you could write you can write the RFP in a way that whoever responds and is awarded the award, the contract award, that part of their responsibility would be to work to identify future funding sources, whether that's grants, whether that's a referendum, or whether that's ongoing partnerships. Can you speak to that? And if the folks on the call are familiar with that, can they speak to that as well?
I would say I would like their assistance in finding those. I think Lextran would still take the leadership role in that. But those agencies, those vendors, have the perspective from other cities with ideas that work that we simply don't have here. So leaning on their experience would be very, very beneficial for us. And I'll let those from the cities chime in as well.
Yeah, we kind of wrote the same way. We didn't ask for their help identifying funding sources, but we did ask for their help and their expertise in identifying new zones or potential zones, or especially early in the pilot, zone efficiency changes, right? So I've been a reference point for other agencies now of, as you grew your zone, what metrics did you look at to know how to make the changes? Lastly, I'll say that from the vendor experience, the reasons our zones grew initially was actually the data of downloads. So for our vendor, they were getting downloads and trip requests just outside the zone. And from that data, we adjusted our service zone configuration map to make sure that we're maximizing what, the service needs. So the data that they provided was actually very helpful in the pilot phase of growth and continuance.
And I will chime in here that, yes, I think one of the benefits that you get from going with a large vendor or a vendor that has a lot of areas of service, like VIA, for example, is that they've seen very many different models of funding or use cases that their folks can help sort of find the right grants or the right matches to help with the service. And I really like what the gentleman from Lextran said. I think that there's sort of the various services that sort of fit different niches, and it's sort of a pilot allows you to kind of figure out which one might go best in which area or at what time.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Mohammed, looking at your information, you all have the eligibility requirements for Rides United is that the fact that they don't have any other transportation options. How do you vet or verify that?
Self-attestation. So we just ask people, do you have any other ride available? Sometimes they'll make suggestions, and sometimes we've never had anybody say, oh, I forgot my cousin could give me a ride, so we're going to go ahead and give them that ride. Thank you for asking.
Okay. And then sort of generally in terms of the parameters of how you all operate, I'm wondering if we end up being like a funding partner for either all or some part of the program, how flexible are sort of the terms and the parameters of how you all operate? And I'll say this, like when I was doing medical debt relief, the national nonprofit we worked with, they had specific like economic and like income things, and they said these are solid, they will not change. If you want to work with us, this is it. So I'm asking you, what of your programming framework is like won't be changed, and what things are flexible and negotiable depending on your funding partners?
That's an awesome question, because for Ride United, we do not ask income. So that is not one of our screening questions. It's asked later in the call if people want to disclose just for our data purposes. However, it is not one of our screening questions where we ask about income. And again, it can always be flexible because it is based on the funding. We double checked with United Way Worldwide to make sure that the Ride United program did not have any parameters. Any funding from United Way Worldwide itself does have those parameters, but we can absolutely have access to the system to use local funds.
So in theory, if we said we wanted to fund this, but we want you to open up the destinations to anywhere, instead of just specific sort of essential services, those are possibilities?
Is absolutely a possibility, and again, it would be in your reports, and you could curate your reports to decide what you would like reported as far as where people are going.
Okay, thank you for that. Back to, let's go, St. Louis, Ms. Cagle. For me, like having this conversation with kind of multiple different places and different kinds of programming, I think it's challenging for us to figure out how to compare apples to apples. And I would like a couple of specific numbers from both of you all in Detroit and St. Louis. I'm kind of looking at total number of rides and then your total budget for microtransit, and to extrapolate basically the cost per ride. So not just specifically the cost per trip that you all have calculated. I'm talking about the total number it takes to run the entire program divided by the number of rides in that fiscal year. Is that something you can give me?
So yes, that is what I gave you. So when we're looking at, we're dividing our invoice out. So really the service that we are provided is a bucket of service hours. So that $6.3 million that we have in our annual budget is about 2,200 service hours per month, for example. And so you buy this sort of bucket of service hours. And in that service hour, it comes with the driver, the vehicle, the software, and the call center. And then also, as Daniel was saying, that on the ground management that VIA is providing. So this is the VIA case, right? I can only speak to that at this point. So our cost per ride, our actual cost per ride for this service is about $20 to $21 per ride.
Okay, gotcha. And then
I will say one more thing about that. I wanted to say that, again, I think as the gentleman from Lexington said, if we were serving our entire service area with microtransit, it actually wouldn't be very efficient, because there are some places where it's better to run a bus because there's more density and there's more people riding it. And there's some places that, it might be something in between. But the area, that's sort of what our pilot allowed us to see, is sort of the zones that was the best fit for microtransit, where it's the most efficient without sort of tipping the point toward more fixed route transit, or sort of being, not really efficient at all because we only have like one ride an hour.
Okay, thank you. And same question for Mr. Whitehouse. I have here in my notes from your presentation that the total cost per trip was $19. Is that the sort of the final bottom line number when it comes to cost?
Correct. Yeah, so our $685,000 invoice a month equates to about 12,900 hours of service. And then we're taking that and dividing it by the number of rides that we're providing, and that's where we're getting that total amount. With ours we have an hourly rate, and then we obviously have a not to exceed amount every year. So those 12,900 hours are what are afforded to VIA to provide the service across 5 zones. And we work with them to deploy how many hours are needed in each zone to meet the requirements of response time and ridership efficiency.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Of
Thank
course.
you. Councilmember Lynch.
Thanks so much, Chair. My question, I thank my colleagues for asking all the right questions. Y'all literally read my mind, so thank you. So my only question is for Ms. Reese. You said during your presentation that you all are open to expansion. What does that mean? What does that look like for you all?
That looks like staying within our general guidelines, 60 and over or visually impaired adults, and being able to do door through door, arm through arm. We would still do that. If we can do that and still manage with private vehicles, I don't think we're not looking to go to a van or anything like that unless someone wanted to fund a larger vehicle and a person to drive that. But that would be, we could have more than one person on a trip, but we needed to stay within the age and the visually impaired adults.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a few more things to wrap up. I'll go as quickly as I can. First, to Mr. Whitehouse in Detroit, you explained that you had basically overhauled your public transit system, looked at routes, merged this microtransit with already stable routes. What is, I think that makes a lot of sense. We're looking at, our public transit system and wanting to grow it, but then running into a lot of barriers and to be able to do that. How did you do that? Did you do pay for a study, or how did you look at merging them together to work together?
Yeah, so great question. So coming out of COVID, we identified ridership shifts. Going into the city of Detroit, the ridership was not where it was pre-COVID. So we did bring on a consultant and had them look at every route and what service really was the best fit for every part of our area, right? As I know Lisa mentioned, fixed route is not necessary in every area. You may see 1 or 2 rides per hour where microtransit might be efficient. So the consultant then established, we did a lot of public outreach. We did a lot of steering committees with local elected officials, city leaders, community advocacy groups, right? We really went to the public in multiple times and said, hey, if we redesign this transit network, what's working and where are the gaps? And we looked at what those gaps were. We went to them and we literally brought a map out and said, show us where you need to go, where you can't go. And we were pleased to find that a lot of what we were just missing was frequency, span of service. Our service needed to be 30-minute service. That's what people were most frustrated with. So from that, then they looked at, were there routes that had duplicate service? If they eliminated one route, could they shift route 2 to, maybe cover part of that one route, the end of it? And really, they used one of VIA's functions. I got to be honest, it's called, Kelly, you're going to help me on it. I'm blanking right now, but Remix. So they used Remix, and Remix shows the population density, business density, and we were able to draw proposed routes and see what the impact to the public was, both business-wise, socioeconomic-wise, and from that we really then came out with that smarter network redesign, all while maintaining what our proposed budget was going to be for the next couple of years.
That was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry if you've already said this. VIA is in charge of the microtransit, and then your bus routes are run by a separate entity, or are they run together?
So you're right. In-house, our authority, which covers 3 counties, we have multiple garages. We are running fixed route. So we have about 444 fixed route operators operating those 45 routes. Our paratransit that I oversee is directly in-house as well. Okay. Then we do have a third tier where we provide vehicles and funding within each of our municipalities, and they provide a demand response in coordination with us. And then we have Microtransit that I oversee the contract of, but it is operated by the third-party vendor.
Okay, that's super helpful. That's a lot of layers, so I appreciate you spelling that out.
Yes.
Thank you. And one last question. This is for everybody. How does inclement weather affect rides for people? So let's say you have really bad rain or a storm. What would happen? And everyone can quickly respond. Yeah.
So we do have a few extra hours in our contract. So if we're anticipating in Michigan really bad weather, we will authorize via our vendor to put extra vehicles out there and even incentivize hours for the drivers to ensure maybe extra vehicles out there so we don't strand anybody. And that's from the microtransit standpoint. Additionally, if we do have people that need rides, we can deploy our in-house paratransit to assist. And then we keep our fixed route functioning unless it's just extreme where then most businesses and schools are all closing. But for the most part, we continue to run service. We just amp up some other services with funding that we have accessible.
Thank you.
I'll just very quickly say that also, for us, it's our microtransit runs as long as our buses are running and sometimes longer than our buses are running.
And we had the opportunity to experience this last January. There was really bad weather, and a lot of people used our service because they couldn't get out of their driveways. So we were still able to run. So as long as the city has not declared a state of emergency, Lyft rides are able to continue. And because they are prepaid, they are obligated to show up, or Lyft will send someone else.
Because most of our riders could be generally older, they will self-decide, I'm not going to go out today, and they'll cancel their ride. Now, if they do have to go, because some medical appointments you have to, or we take people to dialysis. In icy weather, we require and we help people know that since we're door through door, there has to be a cleared path so that it protects our driver and our rider, because our driver does help them into the car and from the house or from the apartment. So there needs to be a clear, non-icy space to get that done.
And we're much like St. Louis and Detroit, excuse me, that we very rarely stop. And I think only a couple of times since I've been at Lexington have we had to suspend service, and even that's a term of hours. It's not even a term of days. Our paratransit and would-be microtransit service would continue short of some extraordinary catastrophe.
And just like you are doing for Thanksgiving, you also give free rides on certain days, too.
Yes, free rides on Thanksgiving, absolutely.
Exactly. I think that ends all the questions. I certainly want to thank everybody who has participated, especially Ms. Cagle and Mr. Whitehouse, because this was very helpful, and you gave up your time just to help us to help improve our public transportation here in Lexington, and I can't thank you all enough for taking the time to do this for us. And like I said, if you could email the presentations, that would be very helpful so I can give the rest of my colleagues. And this will be on Thursday under presentations. So with that, I want to thank you all, and that will be the end of the meeting. I'll call it closed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.